Hey guys, how's it going? So last month was July, and that means two things. One, it was my birthday, and the topic of today's video is going to be Artfight. And if you were like me a month ago, you didn't know what Artfight was. And basically it's just an annual event that happens every July. And during the month, every user is split into two different teams, and you attack the people in the other team by drawing their OC, and you get points, and basically at the end of the month, whatever team has more points wins. There's a few other more in-depth rules that you can go into, but that's basically the general gist of it. And I wasn't able to go too crazy this year by drawing a ton of people, because you see some people with 30, 40 attacks. I was only get 6 or 7 done because I only had a week to draw, and I wanted them to be pretty good quality. Before we hop into the first attack, we should probably look at some of the characters that I have for you guys to draw. So I've got 2 designs I made earlier in the year. One is Maya, the other one is Evelyn. I don't have too much lore thought out for them. Feel free to just make headcanon and draw them if you want. Alright, so the first OC is actually going to be Circe by Moth-Graveyard. And I got most of the characters from just asking you guys in my Discord server, because I just kind of prioritized them that way. I had way too much trouble trying to find a pose for her. I think I went through probably 5 hours and 13 different poses, fully drawn out. Even in the shorts time lapse that I posted, I cut out half the poses. I didn't show them at all here just because I was it was just too much. I don't know why, but when I like a character design, I have a lot of issues and just struggles trying to make a good pose that fits it. And I don't know if it's just trying to be perfect or whatever, but it's been like that for characters that I really like as well. So it's just any fan art or things that I like the design of, I just have a lot of trouble making a good pose for. But onto the actual drawing, I wanted to do just a 3/4 pose, and I was thinking simpler lighting, but I decided on something a bit more complicated just because I feel it just fit the composition pretty well. And I really like the design on the shirt and all of that. I did let it get a little bit muddy on accident, but I was fresh from my camping trip, so I wasn't used to digital art at all. So yeah, we're just doing our standard process, just some base colors, just some little bit of blush in there, just to help make her feel more alive, And I kind of noticed that the hair did a Jotaro thing where it blends into the hat, so I decided to keep that in. Just thought it was a little nice quirk about the character. I did have issues also making the makeup work with my style, because you can assume that most of the characters I draw wear some form of makeup, but doing the more drastic effects, I don't know, just not something I do that often, so it's a little bit tricky to tie it in with also just the skin tone and not making it look like a tattoo, because I feel that's a very different look. Either way, we're just hopping into some basic shading here. Just a lot of color variation between to make sure that when I do throw a multiply layer on top, it doesn't get crazy, weird looking. And you can see me having a little bit of trouble getting the lip just right, because when you go more anime style, I feel you have to go less detailed in some other parts of the face, and the lips are one of those tricky spots, at least for me, to get the balance right. Because if you go too far, you get this weird uncanny valley effect, which is not what we want to do. And if you don't go far enough, she doesn't have a face. So it gets a little tricky sometimes. But here I am trying to figure out what I want to do for the lighting. I ended up going with just a super harsh bottom light. I was initially going to do just a 50-50, but I think that the more harsh drastic lighting effect let the rim light that I ended up doing later shine. And that actually brings me into just talking about rim lighting in general. I think it's a really good tool, and if you don't use it, I would recommend tossing it in, just trying it out here and there. It's really helps light up the outside forms and really clean up the silhouette of a drawing, especially in a darker lighting scenario. You can even do it in lighter ones, and you can do it with light, because rim light, or just a reflective color like I'm doing in this drawing. But I feel the rim light really carried it from just being kind of muddy looking and just mid, solid 5 out of 10, to bumping it up a couple. And I think that's a pretty important thing to know, is just a few extra little tricks and tips, to help elevate a drawing, especially because this one I felt it got a little muddy towards the end. The rim light did help carry it and at least have a clear silhouette, but I feel I did lose a bit of the details in the original design. I think I lost the necklaces. They were there at some point, but not anymore. I'm not 100% stoked with how it turned out, but I think we did her justice, and at least he seemed happy when I sent it to him. So alright, so next OC we're gonna be working with is Shiro, and she's basically just a cat bandit who RO farms and robs people, so pretty good overall. And for this one I want to go more of an outside kind of lighting situation, and because I have found recently that I would make things way too dark when I render them, And for this one, I want to try out just having like, just chilling out, you know, having none of the shadows be crazy dark, but still have it look rendered and not look like just some base colors, which I feel like in the end we did pretty well. And for some reason I was having a ton of trouble putting that red stripe in the hair. But yeah, I want something simpler, but also like looking cool. So I feel like just going outside is a pretty good way to do that, because then you get like a splat, like then you get like ambient light from like the sky and all that, so you get a ton of blue that you can throw in there, some rim lights as well depending on like time of day. So yeah, I feel like you just got a lot of good options when you choose like an outside situation. I was also having a lot of trouble with the little tattoo. I think I drew it for like, I think it took like 30 minutes to actually get it right, so I cut most of it out. This one also, I had a lot of trouble getting like the pose down, because like I knew I wanted something outside, but I just like, I think I cycled through like 5 or 6 different poses, and finally settled on this one. But I had some more like strange perspective, like some harder stuff, and ended up just going with a portrait. I think I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out, especially like with the sky and all that. I think it like looks like a scene, which is, I would say, my biggest struggle is like it kind of looks like the characters are just like a sticker placed on top of a background kind of thing. I feel like that's less of an issue now, but especially like last year, anytime I did a full background, it'd be just two completely separate things. There was no like merging. Still struggling with the clouds quite a bit. If anyone's got tips for clouds, they're very welcome. I usually just use the round brush, and recently I made like a square brush that I'm also a fan of. But doing clouds with it, I mean, we're still going. It's still a skill issue every day. Anytime I do clouds, and it's basically like every drawing, still just cooked every single time. And you can see here, I'm having like most of the character be in shadow, and then have just like a subtle rim light around the edges. Just for, I don't know, I just thought it seemed cool. I didn't really have a reference or anything for it, so I didn't go too crazy with any of the lighting. I probably should have had a reference, just because you see me redo the shading a few different times, and I feel like having a reference would have like not had that happen, you know, because you have something to look at and be like, okay, this is how the lighting actually works. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't have every lighting situation like ingrained in my head, so I usually use a reference for most things. And especially if it's like something that I'm trying to make like in the portfolio or something like that, I have a reference for like almost every single thing in the drawing. And actually PureRef is a really good app for that. Not sponsored or anything, but I've been just using them recently. And it's kind of just like, just throw a ton of images on there. It's kind of just like a mood board as well, which is really nice. And yeah, I mean, we're just doing some like subtler reflections and stuff in the skin. Just trying to keep it pretty toned down, but still have the lighting make sense. I think some parts fell off a little bit, like the forearm sleeves. I don't think I rendered them the best. Same thing with like the bricks, but they're not the focal point of the drawing, so I don't think that's the end of the world. You know what I mean? Here's what it looks like all finished up. I feel like we kind of, and just looking at the finished drawing, I think we did pretty well overall. There's a few like little things, but there's nothing like abhorrently bad about really anything about the drawing. I think this is one of the stronger ones that I've made throughout all the Artfight ones. And next up is going to be Aiko, and here's her reference sheet. I'm a big fan of just the design. It's just like a normal person, and I know going into it that I wanted to do something with like a full background. Yeah, but like I said earlier, one thing that I've been trying more recently is just doing more like full scene drawings, which is something I was going to do with this one. Really incorporating the character into the background and making it look like it's like a person in a scene, not a sticker on a like picture. And I think with this one we were getting there, because I've also been building a portfolio for trying to get hired for like some like game illustration stuff, so kind of using it as practice for that, you know, at the same time. And I think we got pretty close with this one. We weren't 100% there, which that's fine, you know, we're not trying to be 100% every time, right? For this one, honestly, one of the main issues that I had with it was just trying to like make the glass make sense, because we also have like the glass that she's sitting in front of and the glass of water next to her, and honestly those two were probably my biggest struggles for this whole drawing. Yeah, because just kind of the general scene that I was thinking of was a girl, you know, chilling during like because it's just the scene that I was thinking of was just like you're just some bored convenience store worker just chilling doom scrolling TikTok or something. Maybe reading some cultivation manhwa or whatever. So that's kind of the vibe I was trying to go for with the pose. And I think the line art was probably when the drawing peaked. Maybe line art base color was when the drawing peaked. I feel like with the shading I let it get a little muddy, and the values didn't quite make sense at the end. Which, I mean, that's just a practice thing, so I'm not really too bummed about it. I was a big fan of this one though at the moment, because I just really feel like it looked natural, like the whole drawing made sense, you know, up to a certain point anyway. Maybe I went a little overboard with rendering some areas, so it kind of like took focus away from the more important spots, especially like with the grass here, and just kind of the leaves in the background. I was trying out doing like line art around the highlights to make it pop more, and I think that works, but not when it's behind glass in the background. It should be less detailed, I feel like, just because it's in the background, you know. So I feel like that's one area where I probably could have improved a little bit, is just not pushing so much detail in the background. Because if you think, okay, you're focusing on the character, right? And then it's through a pane of glass, and then it's probably 10 feet further back than that. You're not going to be seeing like the individual leaves, you'd be just seeing like vague shapes. So I feel like I probably could have just done like the super saturated color blur method instead. Which, you know, that's fine. Nothing's like inherently wrong with it. I just feel like it kind of muddies up the whole deal. And here you can see the base colors. I think here is where the drawing peaked. Especially in the face, I feel like I over-rendered and kind of took some of the sharpness out. Because I think I rendered it like if it was a portrait, so I would have more detail in the face. But because it's a full body with a full background and everything, you have less detail, so it is easier to like visually tell what's going on. Because I feel like that's something I've been doing a lot, is more like full body scenes, right? And over-rendering some of the smaller things, so that way it doesn't really jive. Like the whole scene kind of gets a little messed up when you do that. And some areas that's good, like if it's the focal point, render that thing to oblivion, you know what I mean? But not when it's like some fold in the fabric. We don't need 15 colors there. One would probably do just fine, you know? And yeah, here we're just kind of basic rendering the, I don't know if we would call that like a register, like a tailor or something. Whatever that is. Just doing some basic rendering on all the wood, just so the two, like the stool and the cabinet, like, so they look different. Because I was thinking they would be different. You know, they're different pieces of furniture, so they're going to look different. But I mean, it's just so they don't like blend in together. Was kind of my main worry. And yeah, one thing that I was trying to do was have the whole foreground, so it's character, the stool, all of that, be in a shadow and only have a rim light. Again, kind of like what I did with Shiro, but a little bit more extreme. That was definitely some skill issues, honestly, at the end. End of the day, we had some skill issues there, which is fine. It was, honestly, I think it was a good idea. I don't know if the execution was 100%. Yeah, now we're just doing some of the glass rendering that I was talking about earlier. I think I did this about 4 or 5 times, just re-rendering the same deal over and over. And I was feeling like it would be an empty glass. So you would just see the ice, which I don't know if that made it easier or harder, honestly. Because I feel like if it was just like, oh, it's coffee, so you just can't see through it, that might have been easier. Because I've seen some people's drawings on Twitter, and like in the time lapse, the ice takes like 2 seconds, and I'm like, hold on a minute, like we should probably have to lock in here, and this should be easy. But nah, now we had to really give it some brain power that we didn't have. So I just kind of ended up throwing a ton of highlights in there. I think it looks like a glass, so I'll take the win, I guess. I wanted it to be like super shiny, but yeah, I just don't think we're quite there yet. Give it a few months, I think we'll be there, but not at this exact moment. So here's the final. I feel like it looks pretty good overall. I do think that like I said, the rendering got a little bit muddy, and some of the values look a little off because I think I did too much airbrushing with like brighter oranges at the end of it, and it kind of threw off the shading. So I just got a little lost in the sauce, I guess. That's one way to put it. Alright, next OC that we're going to be doing is Meadow. I was a big fan of the design. I like how like simple it is. It's simple, but it reads well. And I wanted to do some redemption for an outside, like more complicated lighting. And that's kind of a trend with all the Artfight ones, is that I had more complicated lighting. Alright, so for this one, I actually had a little change of heart and actually had an easy time making the sketch. If you're watching the time lapse of the last drawing, I actually made this one like halfway when I was rendering, because I was like, oh, I got an idea. I need to get this down, or I'm gonna like totally be cooked. That was a nice part, is that it actually went pretty, I would say pretty smooth in the whole sketching process. And usually I'm struggling. I would say almost like 90% of the time. We are having heavy struggles, like just huffing copium the whole time sketching. But I mean, I kind of skipped the sketch process because you've seen me do it 1,000 times. So just moving on to some base colors. I was a really big fan of like the blue hair. I don't think I've drawn someone with blue hair in ages, or I actually can't remember the last one I drew. I think it was like Suise. So it's been a hot minute. It basically is what I'm getting at. So, and at this time, I didn't really know what lighting I wanted to go with. I knew the outside, like it was going to be placed outdoors, because also her name is Meadow, so I feel like it has to be outside. But I ended up doing more of like a complicated thing where like her whole body was in shadow and you could just see like a glimpse of highlights through the leaves. And hopefully that makes more sense when you actually see it in the actual drawing. But this one I was a pretty big fan of, like in the sketching process. And I think my rendering, I went a little off kilter and made it look a little weird. But I think overall it was a pretty strong one. I do like the expression, how it's, I kind of yoinked it from one of Horikoshi's like sketches from, he did like this thing where, or like after My Hero finished, he was like, the guys in like 10 years or whatever, like just the main cast living their lives. And I think this was one of the poses of, it might have been Uraraka, I don't remember, but it was one of them. And I was a big fan, so I had to yoink it from the goat. Because I'm not the biggest like fan of My Hero. Actually, I like it, but I'm not like jumping with glee every time I read it, right? But I do like his art. Horikoshi is so good at drawing. It is crazy. I think him and like Sui Ishida are probably my favorite artists at the moment, just because they're consistently just the GOAT. Every single thing that I see from them is just a 10 out of 10. But yeah, here you can see I'm just laying some base kind of shading of just like the folds and stuff like that, just so when I do add the additional multiply layer for the actual lighting, it makes sense, It actually like reads well. And here we're working on the background, right? And for this one, I wanted to try out the like meta where you just spam a ton of like super saturated colors and then just blur it and pray it works out. And I think it worked out pretty well this time. Normally there's like, it doesn't work out. Like normally, like it looks like, oh, there's this green smudge, but you can't really tell what's going on. I think here it actually cooked. I think we were cooking. I also, this isn't like a new discovery like in the history of humanity, but for me it is. Using the lasso tool to make leaves, it is like it's just so good. I've never used it before, and then here you can see me trying it out, and it like my brain like turned on when I discovered that. So it's definitely a recommendation for any of you guys to try it out. I've been using the lasso tool more and more recently, and every single time I use it, I'm like, oh, why am I not using this for the rest of, like, why haven't I been using this already? It's like I've been missing out. I'm getting mean FOMO from this little tool here. And here you can see the like actual blur. I think honestly the background is pretty good. And we're moving on to the shading that I was talking about earlier, where it's just like a subtle like rim light around the edge, and then you just see the highlights from in between the leaves. This part, it's kind of, my brain's kind of like, it doesn't like wrap around the concept of the lighting very well. It's like the shapes of the highlights kind of trip me up a little bit. And I've been doing this more and more, like trying out this lighting, and it's really hard to find references for as well. So it's like just share it on my noggin, and I don't have the best. I'm not like a genius of lighting or drawing or anything. So it's like kind of just some skill issues. But I think overall it turned out pretty well. I'm actually pretty happy with this one. I would say this is like second favorite. I would say of second or third of the ones that I did for Artfight, which I'd say that's pretty good. Solid middle of the pack, But I say, without further ado, we just hop into the next one, and it's going to be Bethany. Pretty big fan of her design as well. It's again one of the simpler ones, but I like the simpler designs because that makes it like, I find it easier to make poses for characters with simpler designs because I don't have to worry about like showing off individual parts, Alright, so for this one, I was a pretty big fan of the sketch. This one as well, like the sketch came pretty easy. I think I only had to go through like 2 or 3 different poses, which for me, that's pretty good. I mean, normally I'm like a 4 to 5 pose guy before I settle on something that I actually like. So We're just doing our standard process of just blocking in with a solid color, and we're going to alpha lock it and do our base colors on top of that. I was also thinking like more of an outside vibe for this one. If you've noticed, there's the trend here of just doing outside lighting because I'm not really that good at it, so I need the practice. So I think this one ended up being it's just a pretty clean and simple, portrait, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, honestly. I did have a little bit of issue with like getting the bangs right, but I always have an issue with getting bangs right, so that might just be a permanent skill issue that we have to deal with. I wasn't like I didn't really have any like clear goal or anything with this one. I just kind of want to have fun, just draw something cute essentially, and I think we did that. Making her be outside and just doing some basic speedrun clouds and all that. Trying out clouds with the lasso tool. This is the first time I've done that, and I feel like honestly it worked pretty well. You can see like I initially made them like more of like a leaf or like tree that's in the background, but turning them into clouds I think was a good idea. And I don't see myself doing the clouds with the lasso tool that much, but I think it worked pretty well in this case. I haven't done that since then, so I mean I don't know what that says about me, but it worked well here, so that's all I gotta say. And we're just doing some basic just color variation in the skin, especially I find it a lot easier to do this before I do shading, just the color variation in all of the fabric and all of the skin and all that stuff, just so that way the shading, I don't know, I feel like it's just easier, because then the shading color adapts with the multiply layer and you don't have to worry about it, and it's just easier, and then my brain's happy, and then I don't cry about it. So, and we're chilling. And yeah, we're just doing some basic shading. It's shooting outside, so it's gonna be pretty subtle. Nothing too crazy, just a simple kind of like top down, top right-ish situation. Just have to have something interesting, but not anything too hard on my end, because we are trying to be a little lazy here. And at this point, I was also speedrunning because it was like the 29th, so had to like actually lock in, otherwise we'd be late. So, and just going back on the Artfight topic, I had quite a bit of fun, honestly. I didn't really like think about it that much, and if it wasn't for you guys in the Discord server, I probably wouldn't have joined. But I think it was a pretty beneficial thing. I'll probably do it again next year. I guess it depends. I don't know how active I'll be, because I wasn't able to be too active this year. I'll probably be the same next year. I'm just guessing. But who knows? I can't tell the future. But I think it's really nice to do like more contests and stuff like that, so that way drawing feels less lonely, because it can be pretty lonely if you let it be, because you are just chilling in your room by yourself drawing anime girls all day. And I love that, but I know some people get lonely with that, and then you can be like, okay, I'll do this thing to break up the monotony of it, and draw anime girls with the homies, and then be in absolute heaven. But yeah, here's the finished one. I would rate it pretty solid, honestly. It's in my top 3, I would say, of the Artfight drawings. So moving on to the next one, which is gonna be Tempest. I think this guy looks super cool, and I had a lot of trouble coming up with a pose for him, so I ended up just using some JoJo inspiration, and that's what we're kind of working with here. I didn't end up recording the sketch just because I'm a little bit of a dumbass and forgot to, so we're just going straight into base colors. Alright, so for Tempest here, I had, like I said, a lot of issue coming up with the pose. This was going to be like a full body, like whole scene thing, and then I ended up just cropping out the bad parts, so this is what we're working with. I would say this one took like the longest amount of time, just because there was so much cleanup involved with me like redoing the sketch 95 times, so it just took forever. I think it was probably like 4 hours, the rest of them were like around 2 to 3, I'd say. So it's like, this one just took ages. I do think it turned out well in the end, but like, I was also trying to go for more of like a semi-realism kind of look, because that's what the original was, so it just took ages. I did end up around this time also picking up a JoJo's art book, which honestly helped a lot, because their shading's similar to what I do. So honestly, Araki's the goat too. So yeah, we're just doing some, honestly, this is like more of like a painterly kind of process, where it's just I'm painting over line art. This is all one layer, so it's like I'm just constantly overpainting everything and just going back over, repainting it, and just trying to make it make sense. I went back and forth on the background a lot. This one, and then I had a couple other different versions of it. I honestly don't remember what I ended up settling on, but I knew I wanted it to be red, but I didn't know like if I wanted to have like a pattern in the background or if I became too busy. So it's like I was a little torn there because the actual character has a lot of detail as well. So it's like, well, if I have that and then I also have a super busy background, just the whole drawing kind of falls apart, you know? But yeah, here we're just redoing the ear again. Probably like the 10th time. I've had a lot of issue with like just getting ears right. I don't know. It's just been a con. I guess it's probably just because I probably draw too many cat girls, so that way the ears, that's probably it. Just too many cat girl overdose. But yeah, here, like, I ended up resizing a lot of like the pec armor because I realized it was way too small, so it didn't really make sense. I think it looked good, but it was tiny. And just the actual armor suit as well, I had a lot of issue just getting right because I don't draw a lot of that kind of stuff, so I don't have like a good process already. So I had to like come up with something, and it's not like the craziest thing to come up with, but you know, it's still extra work, right? I do think that the design definitely carried though, because I'm very cool, and it was told by them to recommend the game for Fury is where it's from, so highly recommend. It looks cool. I just don't play that many video games, so I kind of fell off. But yeah, you know, we're just touching up some details here and there. Nothing too like crazy process wise. It's just basically going in, adding detail, jumping to another part, adding detail there, realizing the other detail was bad, and then kind of alternating between the two. So it's like just constantly revisiting areas and trying to fix them, and eventually hopefully have like a good cohesive drawing. Here we're doing some highlights in like the nose and that kind of stuff, and I do think that the face is the strongest part of this. I did put most of my time in the face too, but I think it reads well, and that's something I have a lot of issue, especially with more like as I get more into realism, like making it still readable and not them be like an 80-year-old. Because like I trying to add a smile line on an anime girl and now she's 75, you know? It's like we're trying to avoid that here. And I think we did a pretty good job here of just making it look cool, you know, cool, and you can tell it's just some badass dude who's absolutely jacked out of his mind and just killing it, you know. And I was kind of torn mentally, like how much detail I want to go in on the suit, because if I went too much, I feel like it would lose like the used effect, because I wanted it to look like it wasn't brand new. I wanted it to have like I wouldn't say faded, but just like you could tell it was worn, right? And there's like little scratches and dents here and there, and it's not insanely shiny and polished, because I don't think it would make sense if he's like I don't know, like, because it wouldn't really make sense if he like fights a lot to have like a super shiny suit like that, because it's a used. So you know how it is. It's like having the same thing with like a knight with incredibly shiny armor. It's like, okay, bro's never seen the battlefield. Bro's sitting in the truck with AC. All his homies are actually dying on the battlefield here. Yeah, I also had a lot of issue getting the hands right, because initially, I remember doing sketching, I made them really tiny, so I had to resize them like 50 times, because I wasn't sure how like far I wanted them away from him, and I ended up changing that around a lot. So it's probably good that I didn't record the sketch, because that would be kind of embarrassing from how many times I changed up the details in there. So I think overall, like at the end of the day, it turned pretty well. I think most of these actually turned out pretty good. And here's just kind of like a snapshot of all of them. I would say I had a pretty good time with Artfight this year, and I'd probably do it again next year, honestly. Wasn't sure exactly what to do or anything, or how many are like you're supposed to do. I didn't want to do like a mass attack and get like 150 attacks in, because I feel like that's kind of, I don't know, kind of cheating a little bit, because it's like, bro, you're supposed to make like some banging art, right, and share it. But maybe I'm just yapping, I don't know. But I'll just also show all the defenses that I got. I think that's all I got for you guys, and hopefully more uploads in the future that are not 4 months apart. So peace.